I'm Allison, 32, and I never thought I'd find my sister Madison trying on a white wedding gown exactly 1 week before my own wedding. We were inseparable as kids, but that moment crystallized years of favoritism and betrayal. My mother Diana stood beside her, pins in hand, while Madison twirled in what should have been my special moment. Mom always took her side, telling me to stop overreacting whenever I voiced concerns. If only I had recognized the warning signs that Madison would try to steal my thunder in the most unforgivable way possible. Before I dive into this painful story, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop your location in the comments, hit that like button, and subscribe to hear more stories about family drama and how to overcome it. Trust me, this wedding saga will make your jaw drop as we continue. Ryan proposed on our 3rd anniversary during a hike to the same waterfall where we had our first date. The moment was perfect. Private, meaningful, and utterly romantic. When he knelt down and pulled out that emerald-cut diamond, I couldn't say yes fast enough. We'd been together for 3 wonderful years, navigating career changes, a cross-country move, and the purchase of our first home. He was my rock, my best friend, and now he would be my husband. My family's reaction to our engagement was mostly positive. My dad Thomas clapped Ryan on the back and welcomed him to the family, while my mother Diana immediately started talking about venues and flowers. But Madison's response was odd. She smiled and hugged me, but her eyes didn't match her expression. Later, when showing her the ring up close, she commented, "It's smaller than I expected for how much Ryan makes." That stung, but I brushed it off as typical Madison bluntness. The first real red flag appeared when we started looking at wedding venues. Madison insisted on joining us for every tour, which seemed supportive at first, but she kept suggesting places that were way beyond our budget. The Westlake Manor would be perfect, she gushed, knowing full well it cost twice what we had planned to spend. You only get married once. Well, most people anyway. When I pointed out that it wasn't financially feasible, she scoffed. Ryan's family could help if you just asked. Don't be so proud. I complained to my mother about Madison's pushiness, but Deanna just waved it away. She's excited for you, honey. Stop overreacting. She has excellent taste and only wants the best for her sister. The second red flag waved frantically during our dress shopping expedition. I had found the dress, an elegant A-line with delicate lace sleeves that made me feel like a princess. As I stood on the platform admiring the gown in the 3-way mirror, Madison appeared behind me with a glass of the complimentary champagne. Our eyes met in the reflection, and I saw something dark flash across her face before she tripped, sending red wine cascading down the front of the sample dress. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," she gasped, hands flying to her mouth in apparent horror. The bridal shop attendant rushed over with stain remover, assuring me that it happened more often than people realized. But the incident cost us the rest of our appointment, and I couldn't help noticing that Madison hadn't actually apologized to me, only expressed general dismay at the situation. This wasn't new behavior. Growing up, Madison was always my parents' golden child. 3 years younger than me, she was the baby of the family, and seemed to get away with everything. When she broke my science fair project the night before judging, my parents told me to be the bigger person and forgive her immediately. When she borrowed my prom dress without asking and returned it with a tear, I was told not to make a big deal about it. The pattern was clear, but I always tried to maintain our relationship despite the favoritism. Ryan noticed Madison's strange behavior before I was willing to admit it. After the wine incident, he gently suggested that perhaps Madison shouldn't be so involved in the planning process. "I'm just getting weird vibes," he said carefully. "It's almost like she's competing with you. She's my sister." I defended, though doubt had started creeping in. "She's always been a bit dramatic, but she loves me." "I know, babe. I just want our wedding day to be perfect for you." I convinced myself that I might be paranoid or overly sensitive. Maybe Madison was just excited and expressed it poorly. Maybe I was reading too much into innocent mistakes. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. My mother continued to dismiss my concerns at every turn. When Madison accidentally scheduled a cake tasting at the same time as our meeting with the photographer, causing us to reschedule at additional cost, Diana told me, "These things happen in wedding planning. You're being too rigid." Despite the warning bells, when it came time to choose my bridal party, I asked Madison to be my maid of honor. She was my sister after all, and I wanted to believe that giving her this important role would help her feel included rather than competitive. Maybe if she had an official position, she'd channel her energy positively instead of disrupting things. Of course it'll be your maid of honor, she squealed, hugging me tightly. I won't let you down, Allie. This will be the most amazing wedding ever. Looking back, I should have seen that gleam in her eye for what it was. Not excitement, calculation. Once Madison became my maid of honor, her interference only intensified. Suddenly, she wasn't just making suggestions, she was taking over completely. I had selected a palette of dusty blue and silver for our December wedding, but 3 weeks after putting down deposits, I discovered that Madison had contacted our florist to change the order to pink and gold. I was just trying to help. Madison pouted when confronted. Pink is more flattering with your complexion. The blues would have made all the photos look washed out, but I like blue, I insisted. It's what Ryan and I decided together. Fine, have your boring winter wedding, she snapped, storming off like a teenager. When I called the florist to correct the order, they mentioned that Madison had presented herself as the wedding planner, not just the maid of honor. I had to email all our vendors clarifying that any changes needed my direct approval, which felt awkward and embarrassing. At our next family dinner, I tried to address the issue with my mother present, hoping she might finally see the pattern. Madison, I appreciate your enthusiasm, but I need you to check with me before making changes to the wedding plans. Before Madison could respond, Diana jumped in. Allison, your sister is putting in a lot of effort to make your day special. She's been researching trends and vendors nonstop. The least you could do is show some gratitude. Mom, she changed our color scheme without asking. It was just a suggestion to the florist. Madison interjected, though I knew that wasn't true. See, Diana gestured toward Madison. You're making mountains out of molehills again. This is why you were always so difficult growing up. That stung. I wasn't the difficult one. I was just the one who got blamed when Madison created problems. Ryan's family had started noticing the tension too. During a joint family barbecue, Madison monopolized the conversation with wedding details, speaking over me whenever I tried to contribute. Ryan's mother Barbara pulled me aside afterward. Is everything all right with your sister? She asked gently. She seems very invested in your wedding decisions. That was the diplomatic understatement of the year, and I found myself unexpectedly tearful at having someone finally acknowledge the situation. Barbara patted my hand and assured me that she was available if I needed support, becoming an unexpected ally in the chaotic wedding planning process. The third major red flag appeared when important vendor contracts started going missing. Our DJ called to confirm that we wanted to cancel our booking, something neither Ryan nor I had requested. The photographer reached out about the venue change that no one had discussed with us. Each time, the trail led back to Madison. I found evidence when checking my email trash folder. Forwarded messages from vendors addressed to Madison, responding to requests she'd made using my email account. Somehow, she had gained access to my passwords. The confrontation that followed was explosive. I showed up at Madison's apartment unannounced, printouts in hand. What the hell is this? I demanded, showing her the emails. You used my account to cancel our DJ? To tell the photographer we changed venues. Madison's eyes widened before tears began streaming down her face. I was just trying to find better options for you. That DJ had terrible reviews, and I found someone who would do it for half the price. That's not your decision to make. This is my wedding. Our wedding, she corrected, then caught herself. I mean, your wedding, but our family celebration. I just want everything to be perfect. Perfect according to who? Because it seems like you're planning the wedding you want, not what Ryan and I want. She collapsed onto her sofa, sobbing dramatically. I can't believe you're attacking me when I've done nothing but try to help. You've always been so jealous of me, and now you're making me the villain in your wedding story. The audacity was breathtaking. I was the jealous one? After all the times she had sabotaged me? Of course, Diana took Madison's side when she heard about our fight. She called me that evening, voice cold with disappointment. You made your sister cry. After everything she's done for your wedding, you accused her of sabotage? Family supports each other, Allison. You need to apologize and make this right. Mom, she literally canceled our vendors without permission. She was trying to save you money. For heaven's sake, forgive your sister. Do it for me. For family peace. Do you really want drama overshadowing your wedding? The irony of that statement was completely lost on her. That night, Ryan suggested we consider eloping instead. We could go to Bali, just us. No family drama, no vendors to wrangle. What do you think? The offer was tempting, but I refused to let Madison's behavior rob me of the wedding celebration I had always dreamed about. No, that would be letting them win. This is our day, and I'm not giving it up. A week later, Ryan showed me some text messages that made my blood run cold. Madison had been texting him frequently, first with innocent wedding questions, then with increasingly personal comments. You look so good in that suit from the fitting. And we should grab coffee sometime. Just us. I want to know my future brother-in-law better. The most recent, I've always wondered what it would be like to be with someone like you. That was the final straw. Madison wasn't just trying to control my wedding. She was making inappropriate advances toward my fiancé. That night, I made the painful decision to remove Madison as my maid of honor. I decided that a family dinner would be the appropriate setting to announce my decision. My friend Samantha had agreed to step in as maid of honor, and I wanted everyone to hear the news simultaneously, to prevent Madison from spinning her own narrative. In retrospect, a public restaurant might have been a better choice than my parents' dining room. We were halfway through the main course when I cleared my throat and set down my fork. I have something important to share about the wedding, I began, my heart pounding. Given some recent issues with the planning process, I've asked Samantha to take over as my maid of honor. The silence that followed was deafening, until Madison's fork clattered loudly against her plate. What? She whispered, her face draining of color. Diana's reaction was immediate and explosive. Absolutely not. How could you humiliate your sister like this? After everything she's done for you, Mom, she's been sabotaging my wedding plans, canceling vendors without permission, and, I hesitated, glancing at Ryan. She's been inappropriate with Ryan. That's ridiculous. Madison countered, tears welling up right on cue. I was trying to help, and I've only been friendly with Ryan because he's going to be family. Ryan shifted uncomfortably but stood his ground. The texts crossed a line. Madison. You know they did. Diana slammed her hand on the table. Show me these so-called inappropriate texts. I want to see exactly what you're accusing her of. When Ryan pulled out his phone and displayed the messages, Diana barely glanced at them before dismissing them with a wave. This is friendly banter. You're both overreacting and looking for excuses to hurt Madison. My father, Thomas, who had been silent until now, finally spoke up. Those messages do seem a bit forward, Diana. It was the first time I'd ever publicly disagreed with my mother regarding Madison's behavior. But Diana wasn't having it. Thomas, don't encourage this nonsense. Allison has always been jealous of her sister's social ease. Now she's trying to exclude Madison from the most important day of her life. She turned back to me, eyes blazing. If you do this, you can forget about our contribution to the wedding. We're not financing this kind of family betrayal. Diana, my father cautioned, but she cut him off. No, Thomas. I mean it. Madison is her sister. Sisters are maids of honor. Period. I looked at my father, hoping for support, but he ultimately wilted under Diana's glare. Allie, maybe you should reconsider, he suggested weakly. Family harmony is important, especially for a wedding. Ryan reached for my hand under the table, squeezing it in solidarity. With all due respect, he addressed my parents. This is our wedding. Allison gets to choose who stands beside her, and given what's happened, I fully support her decision. Madison's sobs grew louder. You're ruining our sisterhood, she cried dramatically. I've only ever wanted to be close to you, and you keep pushing me away. Everyone will ask why I'm not your maid of honor. Do you want to humiliate me in front of our entire family? This isn't about humiliating you, I replied, my voice shaking. This is about me being able to trust my maid of honor not to sabotage my wedding. Sabotage. Diana's voice rose to a shriek. Your sister has devoted months to your wedding. She's sacrificed her time, her energy. I never asked her to do any of that. I stood up, unable to remain seated under the onslaught. And she wasn't helping. She was taking over, changing things without permission, contacting my fiancé inappropriately. Get out, Diana roared, also standing. If you can't appreciate your sister's love and support, then get out of this house until you come to your senses. I looked to my father one last time, but he stared down at his plate. Another betrayal by silence. Fine, I whispered, grabbing my purse. Ryan, let's go. Ryan stood immediately, placing a protective arm around my shoulders as we walked out. Madison's theatrical sobs following us down the hallway. In the car, the full weight of what had just happened crashed over me. My entire body shook with sobs as Ryan held me across the center console. They always take her side, I gasped between tears. My whole life, nothing I say matters if it contradicts Madison's version of events. I know, babe. I know. Ryan soothed, stroking my hair. Through my tears, I recalled countless instances of being gaslit by my family. When Madison borrowed my college application essay and submitted a suspiciously similar version to the same school, and got accepted while I was waitlisted, my parents told me I should be proud of inspiring my sister. When she showed up in an identical dress to my college graduation dinner, claiming she didn't know what I'd be wearing despite seeing it hanging in my closet earlier that day, I was told to be flattered by her admiration. My phone rang, interrupting my painful reminiscing. It was my Aunt Jessica, my mother's sister, whom I had always been close to despite her living across the country. "Allison, your dad just called me. Are you okay?" Hearing her concerned voice unleashed a fresh wave of tears as I explained what had happened. To my surprise, she wasn't shocked. "Oh, honey, I've watched this dynamic play out for years, but your mother wouldn't hear a word against her parenting. Madison has always been obsessively competitive with you, and Diana has enabled it because it was easier than addressing the real issue." "What real issue?" I asked, confused. Jessica hesitated before continuing. "Did you know Madison tried to date Ryan before you two met?" My heart stopped. "What?" It was brief. They matched on a dating app, went out once or twice, but he wasn't interested. This was maybe 6 months before he met you. When you started dating, she recognized his name and picture, but never said anything. I only know because she called me upset about it back then. The pieces suddenly clicked into place. Madison's strange reaction to our engagement, her increasing interference, the inappropriate texts. This wasn't just about my wedding. It was about Ryan, too. I had no idea, I whispered, looking at Ryan, who appeared equally shocked. "I swear I didn't recognize her when we met at your birthday party," he said. "She must have used different photos on the dating profile. We only went out once, and it was a group thing. I didn't even consider it a real date." My aunt's revelation solidified my resolve. This wasn't just petty sibling rivalry. Madison had been harboring a grudge and deliberately trying to undermine my relationship. I wasn't going to let her or my mother ruin the most important day of my life. "Thank you for telling me, Aunt Jessica," I said, wiping away tears. "At least now I know I'm not crazy." "You're not crazy, sweetheart. And you're not alone. I'm booking a flight out there tomorrow. Whatever happens with this wedding, you'll have people in your corner." As we drove home, I felt a strange sense of clarity emerging through the pain. For the first time in my life, I was truly seeing my family dynamics for what they were, and I was done being the sacrificial lamb on the altar of Madison's ego. The morning after the disastrous family dinner, I woke up with a new sense of purpose. If Madison was determined to sabotage my wedding, I would be equally determined to stop her. Ryan and I sat at our kitchen table with coffee and my wedding planning binder, developing what we jokingly called Operation Secure Ceremony. First, I changed all my passwords, email, vendor portals, wedding website, everything. I couldn't believe I'd been naive enough to use variations of the same password that Madison could easily guess. Ryan set up 2-factor authentication on all accounts that offered it. "No more Miss Nice Bride," I muttered, creating a spreadsheet of all our vendors with updated contact information and security questions. We implemented what I called the need-to-know information policy. Only our most trusted friends would have complete details about the wedding arrangements. Everyone else, including most family members, would receive limited information on a staggered schedule. Barbara, Ryan's mother, became our unexpected hero in this situation. When I called to ask if she'd help coordinate some of the secret details, she didn't hesitate. "Of course I will, dear," she said warmly. "No bride should have to deal with this kind of stress. Between me and your Aunt Jessica, well, make sure everything goes smoothly." Madison wasn't giving up easily, though. She began reaching out to our mutual friends, fishing for information under the guise of wanting to surprise me with something special for the wedding. My college roommate Kayla called me, confused. "Madison says she needs the reception seating chart to coordinate some surprise. I thought you removed her as maid of honor." "Don't tell her anything," I warned. "Shay's trying to cause problems." Thankfully, my best friend Samantha was brilliant at running interference. As the new maid of honor, she fielded calls and messages, redirecting curious friends and deflecting Madison's attempts at information gathering. She even created a fake timeline of events to feed to anyone who might leak details back to my sister. If Madison thinks the ceremony is at 4 when it's actually at 2, she can't show up and make a scene. Samantha reasoned with a mischievous grin. Meanwhile, Deanna launched a campaign of emotional warfare through passive-aggressive texts and voicemails. I raised you to value family above all else. I don't recognize who you've become. Madison cried herself to sleep last night. I hope you're satisfied. Your grandmother would be so disappointed to see sisters torn apart like this. I stopped responding after the third message, which only escalated her tactics. She began calling Ryan's parents, trying to recruit them to her cause. Fortunately, Barbara remained firmly on our side and politely shut down these attempts. My father attempted to play peacemaker, calling with awkward suggestions for compromise. What if Madison could still be in the bridal party, just not as maid of honor? Or maybe she could do a special reading during the ceremony. Dad, she tried to cancel our venue. I reminded him. She sent inappropriate texts to Ryan. Why are you still making excuses for her? She's going through a difficult time, he replied weakly. Your mother is worried about her mental health. And what about my mental health? I countered. Does that matter to either of you? His silence was answer enough. The real shock came 3 weeks before the wedding, when a friend forwarded me a link to an unfamiliar wedding website. It looked almost identical to our official site, except for one major difference. This version listed Madison as the maid of honor, and had different times and locations for several events. What the actual hell? Ryan exclaimed, looking over my shoulder at the screen. She created a fake wedding website. I felt physically ill. She's trying to send our guests to the wrong places. We immediately contacted our real wedding website host to add password protection for viewing the details, and sent out an email blast to all guests warning them about the fraudulent site. It was humiliating having to explain that my own sister was trying to sabotage my wedding, so we blamed it vaguely on unauthorized changes and technical difficulties. I confronted Madison via text about the fake website, unable to face another in-person showdown. Her response was predictably self-righteous. I was trying to help, because your website had errors. Some of the times didn't make sense with the venue distances. I was going to tell you about it as a surprise when it was fixed. Why do you always assume the worst about me? When I didn't respond, Diana called, leaving a venomous voicemail. Madison was doing you a favor fixing your disorganized wedding plans, and this is how you thank her? With accusations and silent treatment? You owe her an apology. It had become abundantly clear that no amount of evidence would convince my mother that Madison was deliberately causing problems. In her eyes, Madison was always the victim, and I was always the aggressor. That evening, Ryan and I made a difficult but necessary decision. We would hire security for our wedding. The expense hadn't been in our budget, but Barbara and Ryan's father insisted on covering the cost. Think of it as our pre-wedding gift, Barbara said kindly. Every bride deserves to feel safe and happy on her special day. As our wedding approached, I vacillated between sadness at how my family relationships had deteriorated, and determination to protect the day Ryan and I had worked so hard to plan. I still loved my sister and parents, but I was finally putting my own well-being first, something I should have done years ago. 1 week before the wedding, I realized I had left my grandmother's pearl earrings. I intended something borrowed, at my parents' house during a visit before all the drama escalated. My mother and Madison were supposed to be at a charity luncheon that afternoon, so I decided to quickly stop by and retrieve them while no one was home. Dad was at work, and I still had my key, so it seemed like the perfect opportunity to avoid confrontation. I parked down the street rather than in the driveway, not wanting to alert the neighbors who might mention my visit to my mother later. The house was quiet as I let myself in and headed upstairs to my old bedroom, where Eid left the earrings in my former jewelry box. As I passed my parents' bedroom, I heard voices, specifically, my mother's voice saying, "Hold still, the hem needs just one more pin." My stomach dropped. They weren't at the luncheon after all. Curiosity and dread propelled me forward. The door was partially open, and what I saw inside froze me in place. Madison stood on a small stool in the center of the room, wearing a white wedding gown, not just any white dress. A full-on bridal gown with lace overlay, beading, and a modest train. My mother knelt at her feet, pins in hand, adjusting the hem. "Do you think the neckline is too low?" Madison asked, turning to examine her reflection in my mother's full-length mirror. "It's perfect, sweetheart. Elegant, but still youthful," Diana replied, sitting back to admire her handiwork. "Allison will be so jealous when she sees how stunning her sister looks. That basic dress she chose doesn't hold a candle to this." I must have made a sound, a gasp or whimper, because both women suddenly turned toward the door. Their expressions when they saw me would have been comical under different circumstances. Diana looked like a child caught with her hand in the cookie jar, while Madison's face cycled rapidly from shock to defiance. "What are you doing here?" Diana demanded, quickly standing. "What am I doing here? What are you doing here?" I countered, pushing the door fully open. "You're helping my sister with a white dress for my wedding." "It's not white, it's ivory," Madison said with an eye roll. "And it's not like I'm wearing it to the ceremony. It's for the reception change." "Reception change? Since when does anyone but the bride change dresses at the reception?" My voice had risen to a near shriek. "It's becoming very common." Diana interjected defensively. "I read about it in several bridal magazines. The maid of honor often changes into something special for the later events." "She's not the maid of honor," I reminded her. "And even if she were, she doesn't get to wear a wedding gown to my wedding. It's just a dress, Allison." "Stop overreacting," my mother snapped. Those words, her constant refrain throughout my life whenever I objected to Madison's behavior, broke something inside me. Hot tears spilled down my cheeks as years of pent-up frustration exploded. "Stop overreacting? Stop overreacting? My sister is literally planning to show up to my wedding in a bridal gown, and am overreacting? What exactly would be an appropriate reaction, Mom? Should I just smile and hand over my bouquet too? Maybe Ryan and I could step aside and let Madison and her +1 get married instead, since apparently this wedding is all about her anyway." Madison stepped down from the stool, the dress train trailing behind her like a royal mantle. "You're being hysterical. This isn't even about you. It's my wedding," I screamed, my voice breaking. "Of course it's about me. And Ryan, not you. It has never been about you." I collapsed onto the edge of my parents' bed, sobs racking my body. The weight of a lifetime of being gaslit and dismissed crushed down on me in that moment. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think through the pain and betrayal. My phone buzzed in my pocket, a text from Ryan asking if Eid found the earrings. With trembling fingers, I typed, "Come to my parents' house. Now. Emergency." Diana approached me, her face a mask of concern that didn't reach her eyes. "Sweetheart, you're blowing this completely out of proportion. Madison just wants to look nice for your special day. In a wedding gown," I said flatly through my tears. "It's a formal dress that happens to be light-colored," Diana insisted. "No one will even notice with all eyes on you." "Everyone will notice. That's the whole point. That's why she's doing it." I stood up, backing away from both of them. "She's been trying to sabotage my wedding from day one, and you've helped her every step of the way." Madison's face contorted with rage, the mask of innocence slipping. "You always think you're so perfect, don't you? Allison with her perfect fiancé and her perfect life. Some of us don't have everything handed to us on a silver platter." "Handed to me? I've worked for everything I have, including my relationship with Ryan, which you've been trying to undermine since the engagement." The doorbell rang, and moments later, Ryan's voice called up from downstairs. "Allie? You up there? We're in here," I called back, relief flooding through me at the sound of his voice. Ryan appeared in the doorway, taking in the scene, me with tear-streaked cheeks, Madison in a wedding gown, Diana looking defensive with pins still clutched in her hand. His eyes widened as understanding dawned. "What the hell is going on?" he asked, though it was clear he already knew. "Madison was just trying on a dress for the wedding," Diana said smoothly. "Allison is making a big deal out of nothing." Ryan's normally gentle demeanor hardened as he looked from the white gown to my mother's dismissive expression. "Mrs. Cooper, with all due respect, that's a wedding dress. No one wears a wedding dress to someone else's wedding unless they're deliberately trying to cause problems." "Thank you," I exclaimed, grateful for the validation. "Ryan, you don't understand family dynamics," Diana began. "I understand exactly what's happening," he interrupted, his voice tight with controlled anger. "Madison has been trying to hijack our wedding from the moment we announced our engagement, and instead of stopping her, you've been enabling her behavior." The front door opened again, and my father's voice called out, "Hello? Whose car is that in front of the house?" "We're upstairs, Dad," I called back, my voice still shaky. Thomas appeared behind Ryan, his briefcase still in hand. He took in the tableau before him, his expression shifting from confusion to shock as he registered Madison in the white gown. "What's going on?" he asked, setting down his briefcase. "Your daughter is planning to wear a wedding gown to our wedding, and your wife is helping her," Ryan explained bluntly. Thomas looked at Madison, then at Diana, then back to the dress. For the first time, I saw real recognition dawn in his eyes, not just of this situation, but of the pattern it represented. "Diana, tell me this isn't what it looks like," he said quietly. "It's just a dress, Thomas." Diana replied, but her voice had lost some of its certainty. "It's a wedding dress," he stated flatly. Why would Madison need a wedding dress for Allison's wedding? Madison suddenly burst into tears. Not the calculated, manipulative sobs I'd seen countless times before, but genuine, messy crying. "I can't help it," she wailed. "I've always been jealous of Allison. She gets everything. The good job, the perfect boyfriend, the dream wedding. No one even cares that I'm still single at 29. Mom and Dad never ask about my life because they're too busy fawning over Allison's accomplishments." I stared at her in disbelief. In what universe had our parents ever fawned over me instead of her? "That's not true, Madison," Thomas said gently. "We've always been incredibly proud of you. Then why is everything always about Allison?" Madison demanded through her tears. "Even now, you're taking her side. Because it's her wedding," Thomas exclaimed, a rare note of frustration in his voice. "This one day should be about her, not you." Diana moved to put her arm around Madison's shoulders. "Now you're ganging up on her too, Thomas? Can't you see she's hurting?" My father looked at my mother as if seeing her clearly for the first time. "Diana, our daughter is planning to wear a bridal gown to her sister's wedding. Don't you see how inappropriate that is? It's just a dress," Diana repeated stubbornly. "Allison is being a bridezilla about a simple dress." Ryan took my hand, his expression resolute. "We should go, Allie. There's nothing more to say here." I nodded, emotionally exhausted. "I came for Grandma's pearl earrings. They're in my old jewelry box. After that, we're leaving." "Allison, don't be dramatic." Diana called after me as I moved toward my old bedroom. I turned back, looking at my mother and sister, one comforting the other as if Madison were the wronged party in this situation. "I want to be perfectly clear. Madison is not welcome at our wedding. And Mom, if you can't see how wrong this is, you're not welcome either." "You don't mean that," Diana gasped. "I absolutely do," I replied, my voice steady despite the tears still drying on my cheeks. "I'm done being the family scapegoat. This is my wedding day, and I refuse to spend it looking over my shoulder, waiting for the next sabotage attempt." I retrieved the earrings and walked back to the hallway where Ryan waited. My father stood there too, looking torn. "Allie, please. There must be a way to work this out," he pleaded. "There is, Dad." Madison apologizes sincerely and gets professional help for her jealousy issues, and Mom acknowledges that her enabling has damaged our family. Until then, I need to protect myself and my wedding day. With that, Ryan and I walked out, leaving behind the sound of Madison's sobs and Diana's soothing murmurs. As we reached the car, I turned back to see my father standing in the doorway, an expression of profound sadness on his face. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the one apologizing for someone else's bad behavior, and despite the pain, it felt like freedom. News of the white dress incident, as it came to be known, spread through our extended family like wildfire. By the following morning, my phone was flooded with messages from aunts, uncles, and cousins. Some expressing support, others demanding explanations, and a few outright condemning my cruelty toward my sister. Aunt Jessica, true to her word, arrived the next day and immediately took charge of the situation. She set up headquarters at Ryan's parents' house, where we had gathered to regroup and adjust our wedding plans. "Let me handle the family communications," she offered. "You two focus on the wedding." With Jessica's help, we created an alternate accommodation plan for family members who supported us, but might feel caught in the middle. Ryan's parents generously offered their home to out-of-town relatives who didn't want to stay at the hotel where my parents and Madison would be. Diana, meanwhile, had launched what could only be described as a smear campaign. My cousin Bethany forwarded me a lengthy email Diana had sent to the extended family, portraying me as a bridezilla who had always been jealous of the close bond between mother and younger daughter, and was now tearing the family apart over a simple dress misunderstanding. The email conveniently omitted the canceled vendors, the fake wedding website, and Madison's inappropriate texts to Ryan. Instead, it painted Madison as a devoted sister, whose only crime was being too enthusiastic about helping with wedding preparations. Madison herself took to social media with cryptic posts clearly designed to attract attention and sympathy. Family should always come first. Until it doesn't, apparently. And the truth about toxic relationships is that sometimes the person pointing fingers is the toxic one. Each post garnered dozens of supportive comments from friends who had no idea of the actual circumstances. The most surprising development came 3 days after the incident when my father called. "I confronted your mother about her favoritism," he said, his voice tired. "For the first time in our marriage, I really pushed back. I told her that she's been enabling Madison's worst impulses for years, and it's damaged both our daughters and our family." "How did she take it?" I asked, hardly daring to hope for a breakthrough. "Not well," he admitted. "She accused me of betraying her and Madison. We've been sleeping in separate rooms since then." "I'm sorry, Dad," I said, genuinely concerned about the strain on their marriage. "Don't be. This confrontation has been years overdue. I should have stood up for you more when you were growing up, Allie. I failed you by keeping the peace at your expense." His admission brought tears to my eyes. "Thank you for saying that, Dad. It means a lot." Meanwhile, Ryan's family had stepped up in extraordinary ways. His mother Barbara had taken over coordination with the caterers and florists. His father James had arranged for a security team made up of his former police department colleagues. Even Ryan's teenage cousins had volunteered to help with last-minute tasks, like assembling welcome bags. The contrast between their unhesitating support and my own family's dysfunction was both comforting and painful to witness. One afternoon, I received an unexpected message from my grandmother, my mother's mother, who lived in Arizona and rarely traveled due to her health. "I've heard about the wedding drama from both sides," she wrote. "For what it's worth, I'm booking a flight for your special day. Your mother gets her enabling tendencies from somewhere, and I've spent too many years excusing bad behavior in the name of family peace. Some patterns need to be broken." Other supportive messages trickled in from unexpected sources. My high school friend Tara, who had grown apart from me but remained close with Madison, called to say she'd declined Madison's invitation to an alternative celebration being planned for the same day as my wedding. "She's trying to get a group together to boycott your wedding and attend her pity party instead," Tara explained. "I thought you should know." The final blow came when we discovered that Madison had contacted our wedding venue, posing as me, attempting to cancel our reservation. Thankfully, the coordinator had thought the call seemed odd and had emailed me directly to confirm before making any changes. "This is getting scary," Ryan said when I showed him the email. "She's moved beyond petty sabotage into potentially criminal behavior. Impersonating you to cancel services you've paid for could be considered fraud." I didn't want to involve lawyers or police. They were still my family, despite everything. But Ryan insisted we document everything in case the situation escalated further. That evening, I received a text from my father asking if we could meet privately the next day. The message seemed urgent but gave no details. When I showed it to Ryan, he was concerned. "What if it's another attempt to pressure you into letting Madison attend? My dad's been more supportive lately," I pointed out. "I think he's genuinely trying to do the right thing." "I'll come with you," Ryan decided. "Just in case." I agreed, not because I feared my father, but because I knew I would need Ryan's strength if this turned into another emotional confrontation. Whatever my father wanted to discuss, I had a feeling it would shape the final days before our wedding in significant ways. We met my father at a quiet cafe, halfway between our apartment and my parents' house. He was already there when we arrived, nursing a cup of coffee, his face drawn with fatigue. The way he stood to greet us, shoulders hunched, movements hesitant, spoke volumes about his mental state. "Thank you for coming," he said, awkwardly hugging me and shaking Ryan's hand. "I wasn't sure you would." "What's going on, Dad?" I asked after Wed ordered our drinks. "Is everything okay?" He took a deep breath, folding his hands on the table. "No, everything is not okay. But it's time you knew the whole truth about Madison and why your mother and I have handled things the way we have." Ryan and I exchanged glances as my father continued. "When Madison was 15, she started having serious behavioral issues, beyond normal teenage rebellion. She became obsessed with a girl at school who was more popular, more accomplished. She began dressing like her, copying her mannerisms, even trying to befriend the same people." I remembered that period vaguely. I had been in college by then, only home for holidays and breaks. When this girl got the lead in the school play instead of Madison, things escalated. Madison created fake social media accounts to spread rumors about her. She vandalized the girl's car. When the school threatened expulsion, your mother and I were forced to get her into therapy. I stared at my father in shock. I never knew any of this. We kept it from you. Diana was terrified that if people knew, Madison would be labeled or stigmatized. The therapist diagnosed her with severe insecurity issues and unhealthy competitive tendencies, especially toward people she simultaneously admired and resented. Like me, I whispered, the pieces falling into place. Thomas nodded sadly, as her sister who was succeeding in college, then career, then relationships. Yes, you became a triggering figure for her. The therapist warned us that Madison needed firm boundaries and consequences, not coddling. But Diana, Mom couldn't do it. I finished for him. She convinced herself that protecting Madison meant sheltering her from any criticism or disappointment. When Madison would act out toward you, Diana would rationalize it as normal sibling rivalry, rather than acknowledging the deeper issues. Tears welled in my father's eyes. I went along with it because it was easier than fighting Diana and potentially pushing Madison toward another crisis. But I was wrong, Allie. So terribly wrong. Instead of helping either of my daughters, I enabled a dynamic that hurt both of you. Ryan, who had been listening quietly, finally spoke. Did Madison ever complete her therapy? Thomas shook his head. She went for about 6 months, then convinced Diana she was cured. I knew better, but by then, the pattern was set. Diana defended Madison. I kept the peace. And Allison. Well, you learned to live with it. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a manila folder. I found these in the attic yesterday. I was looking for your baby photos to display at the wedding, assuming we'd still be invited. Instead, I found this box of Madison's things from high school. He slid several pages across the table. They were printouts of old emails and social media posts. All from Madison's teen years, all fixated on various peers she felt were showing her up or getting special treatment. The language was disturbing, vindictive, jealous, plotting various forms of sabotage or revenge. The last few pages are more recent, my father said quietly. I turned to them and felt my blood run cold. They were journal entries dated from just after our engagement, detailing Madison's feelings about Ryan and me. Some excerpts stood out with painful clarity. Allison always gets everything handed to her. Now she's marrying Ryan, who was supposed to notice me first. I matched with him on Tinder months before they met. We would have been perfect together if he'd given me a real chance. Mom thinks I'm helping with wedding planning, but I'm actually gathering intel. If I can't have Allison's perfect life, I can at least make sure her perfect day has some flaws. Change the flowers today from blue to pink. Allison hates pink. Small victory. I pushed the papers away, feeling sick. Dad, why are you showing me this? Because you need to understand that none of this is your fault. Madison's issues go far deeper than wedding jealousy or sibling rivalry, and you deserve to know that I've finally taken a real stand. He straightened his shoulders slightly. I told Diana yesterday that if she attends the wedding without acknowledging the problem and apologizing to you, I'll be filing for separation. Dad, I gasped. I don't want to break up your marriage. You're not, he said firmly. Diana and I have been enabling destructive patterns for years. Sometimes a family system needs to break before it can heal properly. I love your mother, but I can't continue pretending that her approach to Madison is healthy for anyone, including Madison herself. Ryan reached for my hand under the table as my father continued. I'd like your permission to walk you down the aisle, Allie, even if Diana decides not to attend. I know I don't deserve the honor after failing you so many times, but it would mean everything to me. Tears spilled down my cheeks. Of course, Dad. I'd be proud to have you walk me down the aisle. What about Madison? Ryan asked cautiously. Should we be concerned about her showing up uninvited? Thomas rubbed his forehead wearily. That's the other thing I needed to tell you. Madison had what Diana calls a breakdown after you left that day. She's been raging, then crying, then planning various ways to get back at Allison for humiliating her. Is she threatening to crash the wedding? I asked, alarmed. She's been erratic enough that I'm concerned. That's why I brought this. He pulled out a small recording device. I recorded some of her threats without Diana knowing. If you need to use this to get a temporary restraining order for your wedding day, you have my support. I stared at the recorder, then at my father, hardly able to comprehend the transformation in him. After years of passive enablement, he was finally taking concrete action to protect me. Thank you, Dad, I whispered, reaching for his hand across the table. One more thing, he added, his voice breaking slightly. Diana and I are separated now. I moved into a hotel yesterday. She still refuses to acknowledge the severity of the situation, even after reading those journal entries. My heart ached for him despite everything. I'm so sorry. Don't be. This has been a long time coming. Sometimes it takes a crisis to force necessary change. He attempted a smile. Let's focus on your wedding now. I want it to be the joyful day you and Ryan deserve. As we parted ways outside the cafe, my father hugged me tightly. I'm proud of you, Allie. Not just for standing up for yourself now, but for the strong woman you've become despite everything. I hope someday you can forgive me for not being the father you needed. I love you, Dad, I said simply, returning his embrace. Driving home with Ryan, I felt a strange mixture of sadness and liberation. The family dynamics that had shaped and often hurt me throughout my life were finally being acknowledged. The validation was healing, even as the circumstances remained painful. Are you okay? Ryan asked, reaching for my hand. I think I will be, I replied, squeezing his fingers. For the first time, I feel like I'm not crazy for seeing what I've always seen. That night, we received an ominous text from Madison. You'll regret choosing your wedding over your sister. Family is forever, but some choices can't be undone. Ryan immediately forwarded it to our security team, adding it to the file of concerning behavior. As I stared at the message, I felt oddly calm. Madison's threats had lost their power to terrify me, now that I understood their source. 2 more days, Ryan reminded me, wrapping his arms around my shoulders. Then we'll be married, and we can start healing from all of this. 2 more days, I echoed, leaning into his embrace. Whatever happened with my family, I knew with absolute certainty that I was making the right choice in my partner, and in standing up for myself at last. The rehearsal dinner was held at an intimate Italian restaurant near our venue. With the revised guest list, minus Madison and Diana, the atmosphere was surprisingly relaxed. My father arrived early, looking tired, but determined to be present. Ryan's family went out of their way to include him in conversations, sensing his discomfort at attending without his wife of 30 years. Aunt Jessica had decorated the private dining room beautifully, with photos of Ryan and me throughout our relationship displayed on a memory table. My friends Samantha and Kayla had prepared a heartfelt toast that left me teary-eyed with gratitude for their unwavering support. To Allison and Ryan, Samantha concluded, raising her glass. Who taught us all that love isn't just about the easy moments, but about standing together through the storms? The dinner was winding down around 9 o'clock when the restaurant's hostess approached our table with an uncomfortable expression. Excuse me, Miss Cooper? There's someone asking to speak with you in the lobby. She says she's your mother. A hush fell over the table. I exchanged glances with Ryan and my father, both looking equally concerned. I'll go with you, Ryan offered immediately. We both will, my father added, standing up. Diana stood alone in the restaurant's small waiting area, clutching her purse nervously. She looked smaller somehow, less formidable than she had a week ago. When she saw the 3 of us approaching, her eyes focused on my father. Thomas, could I speak with Allison alone? That's up to Allie, he replied, his voice gentle but firm. I hesitated, then nodded. It's okay, I'll talk to her. Ryan squeezed my hand before reluctantly returning to the dining room with my father. I gestured to a small bench in the corner of the lobby, away from the hostess stand. I didn't expect to see you here, I began cautiously. Diana sat down, smoothing her skirt with trembling hands. I didn't plan to come, but I've been doing a lot of thinking since your father left. Dad told me you're separated, I said. I'm sorry about that. Are you? She asked, not accusingly but with genuine curiosity. After everything that's happened. Of course I am. I never wanted to come between you and Dad. You didn't. Diana sighed heavily. Thomas is right. Our problems have been building for years. I just refused to see them. She looked directly at me for the first time. I've been unfair to you, Allison. For most of your life, actually. I've been reading through some of Madison's old therapy notes and am beginning to understand how my behavior enabled hers. I remained silent, hardly daring to hope this represented a real breakthrough. Madison is in therapy again, Diana continued. She had a serious episode after finding you at our house that day. Her therapist helped me see that by always protecting her from consequences, I've actually prevented her from developing healthy coping mechanisms. That's what Dad said too, I ventured. Your father was right about many things I didn't want to hear. Diana twisted her wedding band absently. I'm not going to pretend I've completely changed overnight. 30 years of parenting patterns don't disappear in a week. But I'm trying to learn, Thank you for telling me this, I said softly. Diana reached into her purse and withdrew an envelope. I came to give you this, and to ask if I might attend the ceremony tomorrow. Just me, not Madison. He'll sit in the back. You won't even know him there. I took the envelope, unsure how to respond. What about Madison? How is she taking all this? Diana's expression clouded. Not well. She's still very angry, very hurt. The therapist is working with her on accepting that her behavior has real consequences. That's partly why I'm here alone, to show her that I can support you while still loving her. And the white dress was completely inappropriate, Diana admitted, color rising in her cheeks. I see that now. I should have shut it down immediately, instead of enabling her. Just as I was considering my response, my phone rang with the special ringtone ID assigned to our wedding venue's coordinator. Excuse me, I should take this. Allison? It's Marcia from Lakeside Gardens. I'm so sorry to bother you the night before your wedding, but we've had a security incident at the venue. My stomach dropped. What kind of incident? Someone attempted to access the decoration storage area, where we're keeping your centerpieces and ceremony arch. Our night security caught them trying to force the lock. They ran off, but the security camera captured a woman matching the description you warned us about. Madison. I breathed, looking up at my mother, who was watching me with concern. The police have been called, and we've filed a report. Do you want to come down and review the footage? Yes, we'll be right there. I hung up and quickly explained the situation to Diana. Her face paled. Oh my God. I knew she was upset, but I never thought she'd go this far. Thomas was right to be concerned. We returned to the private dining room, where I explained the situation to Ryan and my father. Within minutes, our rehearsal dinner had transformed into a crisis management session. Ryan's father, James, a retired police captain, took charge immediately, calling his former colleagues to ensure the incident was being taken seriously. I want a restraining order, Ryan said firmly, his arm protectively around my shoulders. This has gone beyond petty sabotage. Diana, to my surprise, didn't object. I agree. Madison needs to understand that her actions have real legal consequences. I'll provide a statement if needed. My father looked at his wife with a mixture of surprise and relief. Diana, are you sure? No, she admitted. But I'm trying to do the right thing, even when it's painful. Madison needs help, not blind support for destructive behavior. An hour later, we were at the police station reviewing the security footage. There was no doubt it was Madison attempting to break into the storage area, her face clearly visible in several frames. The responding officer was sympathetic when we explained the situation. Given the pattern of behavior and your wedding being tomorrow, we can request an emergency temporary restraining order from the on-call judge tonight. The process took several hours, with statements from multiple witnesses including, crucially, my mother. By 1 a.m, we had secured a temporary order prohibiting Madison from coming within 500 feet of the venue, or Ryan and me for the next 72 hours. Enough to cover the wedding and our departure for our honeymoon. Back at our apartment, Diana asked if she could speak with me privately one more time before leaving. I need you to know that I do love you, Allison. I failed you as a mother in many ways, but never because I didn't love you. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Watching that security footage tonight was like waking up from a long denial. I've been enabling behavior that could have resulted in criminal charges against my daughter. Madison needs professional help, I said gently, and it seems like she's finally getting it. Yes, Diana agreed, and so am I. I've scheduled appointments with a therapist to work on my own issues. She hesitated. About tomorrow. I understand if you don't want me there. I considered her request carefully. The old Allison would have immediately agreed out of a desire to keep the peace, to avoid hurting her mother's feelings. But I was learning to prioritize my own well-being. You can attend the ceremony, I decided finally, but at the first sign of drama or defense of Madison's behavior, I'm having security escort you out. Those are my terms. Diana nodded, accepting the boundary without argument. Another first. Thank you for giving me a chance I'm not sure I deserve. After she left with my father, who would drop her at home before returning to his hotel, Ryan and I collapsed onto our sofa in exhaustion. Some rehearsal dinner. Huh, he said, attempting humor despite the fatigue evident in his voice. Not exactly what we planned. I agreed, resting my head on his shoulder. Are you sure about letting your mom attend? After everything. I sighed deeply. I'm not sure about anything except marrying you tomorrow. but it felt like the right call in the moment. She seems genuinely remorseful. Well, have plenty of security either way. He kissed my forehead. Try to get some sleep. Tomorrow is still our day, regardless of all this chaos, but sleep proved elusive. I tossed and turned, replaying the evening's events and worrying about what Madison might try next, restraining order or not. Around 3 in the morning, Barbara, who was staying in our guest room to help with wedding morning preparations, heard me moving around the kitchen and joined me for tea. Wedding jitters or family drama? She asked kindly, sliding into a chair across from me. Both, I admitted, plus wondering if I made the right call about my mom. Barbara reached across the table to pat my hand. You know, when I was getting married to James, my mother and I had a terrible fight the week before. She thought my dress was too revealing. If you can believe that about a high-necked gown in 1982. She smiled at the memory. I almost uninvited her. My Aunt Jessica, yes, your aunt's namesake, talked me out of it. What happened? Mother behaved herself perfectly at the wedding, then went right back to criticizing my choices the very next day. Barbara laughed softly. The point is, people rarely change completely overnight, but they can rise to an occasion when it matters. Your mother might surprise you tomorrow, or she might not, I said ruefully. Or she might not. Barbara agreed. But you've set your boundaries, arranged security, and surrounded yourself with people who love and support you. Whatever happens tomorrow, you'll handle it with the same grace you've shown throughout this difficult time. Her confidence in me was touching. As dawn broke, I finally drifted off for a few hours of sleep, awakening to the realization that my wedding day had arrived. Whatever challenges it might bring, by sunset I would be married to Ryan. The one certainty that made all the family drama worthwhile. The morning of my wedding day dawned clear and bright, with just enough autumn crispness in the air to make the lakeside ceremony comfortable. I awoke to the sound of hushed voices in our apartment. My bridesmaids arriving, bearing coffee and breakfast pastries. Samantha had arranged for a makeup artist and hairstylist to come to the apartment rather than the venue, an adjustment to our original plan that now seemed prescient given recent events. Security at the venue had been doubled, with Ryan's father's former colleagues positioned at all entrances. They had photos of Madison and clear instructions about the restraining order. I tried to push thoughts of potential drama from my mind and focus on the joyful significance of the day. My father arrived mid-morning, carrying a small jewelry box. Your grandmother wanted you to have this, he said, opening it to reveal a delicate sapphire pendant, something blue and something old, all in one. It belonged to her mother. As he fastened it around my neck, our eyes met in the mirror. You look beautiful, Allie. Thanks, Dad, I whispered, fighting back tears that would ruin my freshly applied makeup. I'm so proud of the woman you've become, he continued, his voice thick with emotion. Strong, compassionate, unwilling to accept mistreatment even from family. Those are qualities your mother and I should have fostered all along. Is Mom still coming? I asked tentatively. He nodded. She's meeting us at the venue. She spent most of the night talking with Madison's therapist, trying to convince Madison to respect the restraining order and your boundaries. And Madison eventually agreed to check into an intensive therapy program. She was admitted this morning for a 3-week inpatient stay. Relief flooded through me. Really? She agreed to that. The alternative was potential criminal charges, my father said grimly. Even Diana couldn't deny the severity of the situation after seeing that security footage. The drive to the venue was surreal. Passing through familiar streets on my way to a life-changing ceremony, my wedding dress carefully arranged around me in the back of a decorated SUV. My father rode beside me, occasionally squeezing my hand reassuringly when he noticed my anxiety rising. Everything is going to be fine, he promised. Today is about you and Ryan, not family drama. The venue looked magical. Despite Madison's attempts at sabotage, the decorations had been completed according to our original vision. Blue and silver ribbons adorned the white chairs arranged in neat rows facing the lake. The floral arch where Ryan and I would exchange vows was breathtaking, with white roses and blue delphinium cascading gracefully against the backdrop of sparkling water. Security was visible but unobtrusive, men in dark suits with earpieces positioned strategically around the perimeter. James gave me a reassuring nod as I was escorted to the bridal suite to make final preparations. Through the window, I could see guests beginning to arrive. Barbara was greeting them warmly, directing them to the ceremony seating. A string quartet played softly in the background. It all appeared so normal, so much like the wedding I had envisioned before all the chaos. There was a gentle knock at the door, and Samantha peeked in. "Your mom's here. She's asking if she can see you before the ceremony." I hesitated, then nodded. "Send her in." Diana entered cautiously, looking elegant in a simple navy dress, not the elaborate mother of the bride gown she had originally planned. Her eyes widened when she saw me in my wedding dress. "Oh, Allison," she breathed. "You look absolutely stunning." "Thank you," I replied, suddenly shy under her gaze. "I won't stay long," she promised, remaining near the door. "I just wanted to give you this." She held out a small envelope. "It's a letter I wrote to you last night. Please don't read it now. It's for after the wedding, when things are calmer." I took the envelope, tucking it into my wedding emergency kit. "I appreciate you coming, Mom, and respecting my boundaries about Madison." "I'm trying to do better," she said simply. "It's a process, and I'll make mistakes, but I'm committed to changing the patterns that have hurt both my daughters." She hesitated, then added, "Madison asked me to tell you that she's sorry. She's not in a place where she can say it herself yet, but her therapist thinks it's important that you know." I nodded, not trusting myself to speak about Madison without becoming emotional. Diana stepped forward hesitantly. "May I hug you?" "If that's too much today, I understand." In answer, I opened my arms. Our embrace was brief but genuine, not the performative affection of previous family gatherings, but a tentative step toward something healthier. "I should let you finish getting ready," she said, withdrawing. "I'll see you at the ceremony." After she left, Samantha helped arrange my veil, her eyes questioning. "Are you okay?" "Better than I expected," I admitted. "She seems different, more aware." "People can change," Samantha said cautiously, "but take it one day at a time." The ceremony was scheduled for 2 o'clock. At 1:45, my father returned to escort me. "Ready?" he asked, offering his arm. I took a deep breath, thinking of the journey that had brought us to this moment. Not just the wedding planning with its unexpected complications, but the years of family dynamics that had shaped me, for better and worse. "Ready," I confirmed, taking his arm. The music changed as we approached the ceremony area. Guests rose, turning to watch our entrance. I saw Diana seated in the back row as promised, her expression a mixture of happiness and regret. Ryan's parents sat in the front, beaming with pride. Aunt Jessica dabbed at her eyes with a handkerchief. And then I saw Ryan waiting for me at the altar, his face lighting up as our eyes met. In that moment, all the family drama receded. This was why we had persevered through the chaos. For this moment, this commitment, this love, the ceremony was perfect in its simplicity. We had written our own vows, which felt especially meaningful given everything we had weathered together. Ryan's voice broke slightly as he promised to be my partner in joy and adversity, to create a family based on mutual respect and unwavering support. "Allison," he said, holding both my hands in his, "these past months have shown me the depth of your strength and the power of your self-respect. I promise to stand beside you through whatever life brings, to celebrate your victories and support you through challenges. I promise to never take your love for granted, and to work every day to be worthy of the trust you've placed in me." My own vows, written weeks earlier, seemed almost prophetic now. "Ryan, you've seen me at my most vulnerable, and loved me at my most difficult. You've taught me that real love doesn't demand sacrifice of self, but encourages growth and boundaries. I promise to bring that same respect and support to our marriage, to face our challenges as a team, and to never lose sight of the joy we find in each other." When the officiant pronounced us husband and wife, the applause from our guests seemed to release all the tension of the preceding weeks. We had done it, created our perfect day despite every attempt to derail it. The reception that followed was everything I had hoped for. People danced, laughed, and celebrated with genuine joy. Diana remained subdued but present, engaging politely with Ryan's family and my friends. I noticed her and my father speaking quietly in a corner at one point, their body language suggesting reconciliation might be possible. During a quiet moment between dances, Barbara approached me. "Your mother came to speak with me earlier," she said. "She apologized for her behavior and thanked us for supporting you and Ryan." "It seems sincere." "I think it was," I replied, watching Diana across the room. "I'm not expecting miracles, but it's a start." As the evening wound down, Ryan and I said our goodbyes before departing for our hotel. We would leave for our honeymoon, 2 weeks in Portugal, the following afternoon. Diana approached us last, her expression hesitant. "Thank you for allowing me to be part of your day," she said. "It was beautiful, Allison. Everything you deserved." "Thank you for coming, Mom," I replied, meaning it, "and for respecting our wishes. It's the least I could do." She turned to Ryan. "Take care of each other. That's what family should really be about." As we drove away amid a shower of rose petals, Ryan squeezed my hand. "You okay?" "Better than okay," I assured him. "For the first time in my life, I feel like my family might eventually heal, not by sweeping problems under the rug, but by actually addressing them." 6 months later, spring brought new beginnings in more ways than one. My parents had reconciled after 3 months of separation, with the stipulation that they continued joint counseling. Madison had completed her intensive therapy program and was now in regular outpatient treatment, living independently, and according to my father, making genuine progress in addressing her insecurities. I had maintained careful boundaries, agreeing to family gatherings only with clear ground rules established in advance. The first such event, Easter dinner at my parents' home, had been awkward but ultimately successful. Madison had offered a halting but seemingly sincere apology for her behavior surrounding the wedding, acknowledging that her jealousy had driven destructive actions. "I'm learning to recognize when those competitive feelings start," she explained, "and to process them in healthier ways." Diana, too, was changing incrementally. She no longer automatically defended Madison or dismissed my concerns. When Madison made a passive-aggressive comment about Ryan and me buying a new house, Diana actually called her out on it, instead of making excuses. The letter Diana had given me on my wedding day had been a heart-wrenching account of her own insecurities as a mother, and her recognition of how her enabling had damaged both her daughters in different ways. "I failed to give Madison the boundaries she needed, and I failed to give you the validation and protection you deserved," she had written. "I can never undo that damage, but I promise to work every day to build a healthier relationship with both my children." True healing would take years, not months. There would be setbacks and old patterns reasserting themselves. But for the first time, I felt hopeful that my family could eventually become a source of support rather than stress. The most profound change, however, was within me. Standing up to the unhealthy dynamics in my family had strengthened my sense of self-worth in ways that extended beyond those relationships. At work, with friends, even with minor conflicts like billing errors or service issues, I had become more confident in asserting my needs while remaining respectful of others. Ryan had noticed the change too. "You stand taller," he observed one evening as we unpacked boxes in our new home. "Like you're finally comfortable taking up space in the world." He was right. The journey to our wedding day had been unexpectedly transformative. My sister's attempt to hijack my wedding in white had ultimately led to something far more valuable than a perfect ceremony. It had forced a reckoning that was long overdue, not just for Madison and my parents, but for me as well. The irony wasn't lost on me. By trying to steal my thunder, Madison had inadvertently helped me find my voice. I want to thank you all for following this difficult but ultimately healing journey with me. Have you ever had to establish firm boundaries with family members who weren't respecting you? How did you handle it? Please share your experiences in the comments below. If you found this story helpful, please like and subscribe for more content about family dynamics and personal growth. Remember that standing up for yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary for healthy relationships. Thank you for watching, and I wish you strength and clarity in your own family relationships.